Good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock. So we will start. So this evening, as you'll be aware, we won't start the ordinary meeting of council until we've conducted the mayoral and deputy mayor elections. The elections are conducted in accordance with section 290 of the Local Government Act. So without further ado, I'll start with the nominations for mayor. I have currently received 2 nominations for mayor. The first nomination is Lee Parker for mayor, nominated by Councillor Walton and Councillor O'Neill. Lee, you've signed here, but do you accept the nomination? Thank you very much. The second nomination I have for mayor is for Councillor Tony Quinn for mayor, nominated by Councillor Shield and seconded by Councillor Quinn. Councillor Quinn, do you accept the nomination? Fantastic. Do we have any other nominations for mayor? Okay, that's fantastic. So as we have 2 nominees, we will need to conduct an election. It is up to council then whether you wish that to be by ballot or by show of hands. So usually I think last time this election occurred, we did that by show of hands, but I'm in the hands of councillors as to how you would like to, and that would need to be a resolution of council. So I'll look to the floor for someone to move either one of those options. So perhaps if I suggest the show of hands, if there is a resolution from the floor to do a show of hands election.
So move.
Okay, so moved Councillor Forrest and seconded Councillor Parker. All those in favour? Fantastic. Okay, so then what I will do is I will read out the nominations in no particular order and ask you to show of hands if you support that nomination. So can I ask anyone that wishes to support the nomination for Lee Parker for mayor to raise their hands now? So we have Councillor Meyer. If you can just leave your hands up for the moment. Councillor Meyer, Councillor Walton, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Parker. Fantastic. And now I'll ask for a show of hands for Councillor Quinn for mayor. So we have Councillor Forrest, Councillor Lindner, Councillor Shield, Councillor Hicks and Councillor Quinn. So if my maths is correct, that means that I'm going to declare Councillor Tony Quinn the mayor. Congratulations. We'll now go on to the election for deputy mayor. I have 1 nomination at this point for deputy mayor, which is Councillor Shield, nominated by Councillor Quinn and seconded by Councillor Shield. Do you accept that nomination, Councillor? Fantastic. Do we have any other nominations for deputy mayor? Okay, so in that case, because we have an unopposed, congratulations, Councillor Shield, you're deputy mayor for another 12 months. Right, so the pressure is off me now. I can now relinquish the chair to Mayor Tony Quinn. Perhaps at the end, before you depart, we'll just get some photos so we can do some press releases on for the mayor and deputy mayor. So the chair is now yours, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, councillors, for the privilege of being able to lead the council for the next 12 months. I'd ask Councillor Linda to lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity we have to come to meet as councillors to serve the residents of this shire. Father, I just ask for your hand of favour to be upon us all with each decision that we make tonight, that every outcome would see benefit to this shire and the residents that live here. I ask that in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Linda. Acknowledgement of country, I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting has been held on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. No apologies or leave of absence from anybody? Confirmation of last month's minutes. Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded Councillor Hicks. Any corrections? If not, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour? Clear it, carried all the way. Action reports. If you pick up anything, please quote the page and the number.
I've got one there, 6019, page 3. Just curious through the mayor to Mr. Blackwood, how we progressing on with that fire breaks and things like that that are on the Culhane Common and the place at Henty.
Mr. Mayor. What order? We not live streaming tonight.
Yes,
We are?
yes,
It's working?
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, through you, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the 2 points that Councillor Hicks has raised, I've spoken about the Rural Fire Service and New South Wales Fire Brigade to do a burn at the the Henty Government Dam Reserve, and they've arranged to do that. So they'll be doing that shortly with Water Council staff and equipment, and that's been arranged to occur. In regards to the Culhane Common, that's obviously going out for adjustment, but council's going to undertake some minor fire break work on the western side of the of that common prior to the fire season.
Any further matters from the action report? If not, we'll move on to the disclosure of interest.
Mr. Mayor, page 25, engineering item 1, and at 203.
Thank you, Councillor Forrest.
I just want to support the water for a moment, Mr. Chair, and we got the screen going tonight.
There's a funny in
We're all set now. Yeah. Any further matters from the action report? If not, we'll move on to the mayoral minutes. There's 3 motions to go to conference. 2 of them are listed, and the third one is the conference reaffirm our attitude towards the rural fire assets. I think it's important to keep this matter on the agenda. It's a simple resolution, but you want it written down or?
No,
We do have something in writing we can put on the screen if you want to do that through you, Mr. Mayor. Brilliant, thank you. This is the third mayoral minute in relation to the rural fire assets.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move the item of business be submitted to the local government association conference.
We seconder.
Second.
Second, Councillor Wilton, all in favour? There it carried all the way. Next item on the agenda is a notice of motion from Councillor Wilton. The floor is yours, Councillor Wilton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm just requesting a report from the General Manager, a written report, to give details of the employees, as it's said out here, of council beginning 01 July 22 to 30 August 23, to include details of resignations of personnel and the numbers of replacements and where we're at that date in August, please. So you need it, I need to move that motion.
Yes. Have a seconder?
Happy to second this meeting.
Councillor Parker. You make any comments, GM, or?
No, I don't believe so at this stage, Mr. Mayor, just before the put to the council.
Do you wish to embellish on your motion anymore, Councillor Wilton?
I beg your pardon?
Do you wish to embellish on your motion anymore?
No, just as it's quite simple. I think we just need a report to see what's going on, what's been happening. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the resolution. All in favour? Those against? Declare it carried all the way. Next item is the first one on the environment and planning. So,
I'll move that recommendation.
So seconded.
been moved by councillor Hicks and seconded by councillor Forrest. I've got an amendment that I wish to put. After talking to the minister suggested that.
Excuse me, can you put your microphone on?
My apologies, councillor Field. My amendment would be, because the minister suggested exactly this, that it would be an inclusion, the fourth part of that recommendation, that a report be presented to council detailing the costs and implications for an amendment to the LEP. Minister made the comment that these anomalies should have been picked up back in 2008, and he said it's time you had a rejig of your LEP. So I'd like that put in as a fourth part of that recommendation, and so that's my amendment to the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Linda? Comments or discussion?
Yes, can I have a question? I have a question through you to Mr. Kane. What would his thoughts be regarding that point four that you just mentioned? Thank you.
Well, the suggested amendment didn't suggest how to amend the LEP, but I take it from the nature of this report that the amendment would be to provide council with the flexibility to allow joining houses more or less where it's sort of fit in the AU1 zone, in the rural zone. So if we could clarify that that's what the amendment would be, that would be useful. But look, I'm happy to provide a report on that to council. I'm happy to, if that's the will of council, I would probably engage a consultant and have them provide us with a letter as to the costs and the actual likelihood of success in amending our LEP to provide that flexibility to allow a dwelling house wherever council saw fit in the AU1 zone or AU4 zone in that rural zone.
That's exactly what the extra part of the motion seeking.
Right. Thank you.
Across the whole child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? And I'll put the amendment first. Those in favour of the amendment? Those against, declare it carried all the way. It now becomes a motion. Those in favour? Those against, declare it carried. We move on to government's appointment of delegates.
Mr. Mayor, will you take a resolution in block?
The floor is yours, councillor Meyer.
So moved
As printed.
as printed.
Yes.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
We moved by councillor Meyer and seconded by councillor Wilton that the organisation committees as printed be adopted. Have we got any comments?
Yes, Murray Arts Advisory Committee. I do get the emails, but I've never been to anything because I said that sort of wasn't something that I was interested in being part of anymore last year. But yeah, I'm happy for them to send me their emails. But if someone else would like to actually do that job, feel free.
Any volunteers?
Oh, I can go back on if you. I quite enjoy it. Yes, and it can be useful being having our shire represented.
Mr. Mayor, I was just wondering, we need the marketing promotion committee, considering we haven't met for quite a while.
So the proposal there for you, Mr. Mayor, was for that committee to be discontinued.
That's part of the recommendation.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's been a long couple of days, councillor.
Can I suggest something, is that Oh, no, if it's going to speak, that's right, we don't need to alter anything, that's all right, I'm just.
Well, we've got a resolution in front of us, and Councillor Meyer, I agree, we just alter the arts
Yes.
from Councillor O'Neill to Councillor Shield.
Sure.
Any further comments? If not, I'll put the resolution, those in favour, those against, declare it carried. All the way. Council meeting, Dean, is
Yep.
meeting times.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to actually move that all council meetings take place in Colkey.
Have we a seconder? Moved by Councillor Linda, seconded by Councillor Shield. Matters open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I rise to the occasion in the sense of what we used to do in travelling around various different communities that would open council up to a greater percentage of the Shire. Every time we went to somewhere different, we had an amazing turn up of people at those meetings who were interested in being there, quite different to what we see in Colcan and Holbrook. I would oppose a motion on that basis that we should at some point, say once or twice a year, be going to small country communities. Both Burrup and Brocklesby want to be recognised. This is one way you recognise those communities. The same applies for the eastern section of the Shire in terms of we've been to Westby, we've been to the place called Lake Hume, Weimar.
So what we need, Councillor Meyer, we need an amendment if
I'll move an amendment then, Mr. Mayor, that at least once a year we alternate to a country centre to conduct a council meeting with appropriate notice to that community.
I'll second that, but I would say twice a year, like we've been.
I'm happy with that if you want to support it.
well, so the amendment is that we meet outside of the two regular areas twice a year.
Just a question, with the live streaming the meetings now, going to open the voice of wine.
Local government activity in place for that can't, that's good news.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer.
So just to clarify, Mr. Mayor, so at the moment, the resolution is that we are going to meet in Colcan and then have two alternatives, or we're going to alternate between Colcan and Holbrook and have twice a year where we meet in a small. I just want to clarify because at the moment
That's the amendment.
that's the amendment.
Yes.
So we're going to alternate between Holbrook and Colcan
Yes.
and have twice a year that we have alternatives to those two.
Yes.
But just for clarification for myself and staff. Thank you.
So we have a motion that all meetings be at Colcan, and we have an amendment that we stay with the status quo, but we outsource 2 meetings a year to some other areas. Comments for the motion or against the motion or for the amendment? Councillor Parker.
I think it's a great idea going to the small communities. I think what Mr. Councillor Meyer suggested, it was very important for those communities to have a voice, and it's our opportunity to come along. And yes, we have had great audiences with accepting the meeting plan.
Further comments? Otherwise, Councillor Linda, wish to close the debate.
Yeah, well, I actually disagree with the part about taking it to the other communities, given the representation we had at Walla, the issues we had with the internet, not being able to hear the live streaming and that sort of thing. And given that the people from Bungawanna, when they had a concern, they were more than happy to travel here to Colcan. I really think if people are vetting and want to know what's going on at council, they'll actually come here to Colcan, which is the most central location within the Shire.
Oh, no, that closes the debate. I'll put the amendment first. The amendment is that we stay with the status quo and we outsource 2 meetings once a year. Those in favour of the amendment? Those against? Declare the amendment carried. It now becomes a motion. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. You've got the against ones?
Just for a moment,
That's right.
So both for the amendment and the motion.
We move on to item number 3, local government New South Wales annual conference. The recommendation there.
Yes, I'll leave the recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Move Councillor Wilton, second Councillor Parker. The only person in the room that hasn't been to a local government conference is you, Councillor Linda. Would you be available to go?
It's been nice.
Must be that, I mean, yes.
So is somebody trying to baptise you, Councillor Hicks, or not?
You're lucky if they can catch me. Not certain fast.
Okay, well, I'll put the resolution. Those in favour, those against, declare it carried all the way. We move on to the corporate and community services.
Move the recommendation.
Been moved by Councillor Forrest. We're second. Councillor Wilton. Any comments or corrections? Quite extensive report.
It's a good report too.
Yeah, very, very good.
If not all in favour, those against, declare it carried.
And financially, it will be even better with the road street and the magnitude. The road repair. Don't know when we'll get it, but that was announced in the news with the extra road, so that's great.
The next item on the agenda is unfortunately the wind up of the Cooperdidia Tennis Club.
I'll move that recommendation.
Been moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Linda. It's with regret that this happens, but that's the way life is. All in favour? Those against? Declare it carried all the way. Funeral Medical Centre, the lease between Tracy Management and Greater Hume.
I'll move that recommendation.
Moved by Councillor O'Neill,
I'll
second
second it.
Councillor Hicks. No comments, all in favour? Yes, clear it carried. Move on to number 1, the engineering department. The tender for the subdivision.
I'll move that recommendation.
Been moved by Councillor Wilton, seconded by Councillor Linda. Question, Mr. Engineer. How come our estimates are quite out compared to some of the tenders that are put in?
In regard to the tenders that have been submitted, they're actually not that far out there. There's 9 submissions that we had pretty competitive pricing. But there was also acquisition of culverts and things as part of it. So when you add everything together, it does bring it fairly close together. So I think it's not too bad, but I'm glad it's on the low side. Shows it's good competition.
But you've got to ask some question when it's 400k.
Well, I'm glad it's on the low side.
My next question is, what's the guarantee that they can do it for this? What's their fallback if they don't do it for this price?
Well, obviously, we've actually allowed the price to be more costly if that was going to be the case. And so our budget has actually got some more room in it rather than being prices over the budget. So they actually are under budget to what our estimate is. So it's coming out of our land development reserve, which has got money in it, and obviously it will be recouped through sales of the blocks of land that we've got at Jacob Winkie at Wye, as well as other sources. So there are alternatives to get additional funds into the reserve, but that's what the reserve is funding. But I would hope we've done a pretty good tender and a pretty good contract, that there'll be few, if any, additional costs come out as part of this, because there are provisional items built into the contract.
My question really is that if we accept a 2 million contract and that blows out to 2.5 million, do they wear that?
If it's not part of any provisional items, they will wear the costs, unless it can be a justifiable cost that's not covered within the tender specifications. They wear the cost.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
For a number of tenders we've looked at, Louis Plumbing and Digging have always put in the tender, never been quite low enough to get it. They are a local co-handler, they're employing local people, and I'm of the mind that we would support them despite the difference in cost. It's a co-hand thing, he's a co-hand company, perhaps we ought to start to consider supporting local enterprise.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a process of supporting local enterprise. And I would caution council against change. This is a very extensive evaluation process that goes on to get to the reports that are before you. So, and we have considered the local content, and they weren't the only potentially local based or regional based company that tendered. So I would suggest that this process here has gone through an extensive procedure prior to an evaluation to ensure that it is transparent and equitable, and suggest that I would caution against changing that. And we do support, we have a local support policy for procurement, and it has been applied in this case.
Further questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, we give weight directly to local businesses that put in contracts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Meyer, you've still got something on your mind, or
No.
No further comments. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, those against, that we let the contract to Longley Civil Proprietary Limited. We move on to the B section of the plan of the paper. Any questions or comments? I take it all the return of interest has been declared. Very good. Thank you, councillors, for fulfilling your obligation. There's no questions. Somebody move. We note the B items.
I'll move we note B, C and D, thanks.
B, C and D from councillor Hicks.
And I have D withdrawn.
B withdrawn. Yep.
Section.
So we'll note
Just do B and C.
B and C. We've got a second that way. Second, councillor Forrest. Any further questions? If not, I'll put the resolution. All in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Now, section D.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have two matters of urgency that I wish to raise. Please.
Yes.
Fire away.
Yep.
Thank you. The first one relates to the Holbrook Rotary Club, and I understand each councillor has received a letter by email from Rick Bull regarding this matter of hiring the hall for the staging of what's known as the Bald Archies in July next year. And the request was made to the general manager to waive the hall hire fees for the month of July in order to enable the Bald Archies to be presented in Holbrook in the month of July. We think it's a very worthy project. We've got a hall sitting there that doesn't do anything really. If it were a private function, I think it's totally different. But this is a function run by Rotary of Holbrook in order to stage this art show, which is a pretty rare thing to get. And it goes around New South Wales annually in different towns, and Holbrook Rotary has been able to secure it, but time is of the essence for this, and the committee which runs the Bald Archies needs to have an answer as to whether Holbrook can stage it, and I'm asking councillors if they feel so inclined to waive those fees for the month of July to stage this art show. It's an art show that draws a crowd from fairly wide distance, And I don't see any reason why this one won't be the same. People who follow art shows and board archies and that sort of thing, they do travel to see this activity. And I think it would be well worth our while to waive those fees for the month of July to the Rotary Club, but they do need to know fairly quickly, because it is sort of, as I said, time is of the essence.
Can I add something to that, Mr.
Well, just before you speak, councillor Barker, I told Rick Ball today that it would be a token fee. But I did discuss with him that we want to make sure they've got all the appropriate insurance, which they will have.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah, but we've got to have that in writing, that's all. It's no hearsay, but otherwise I think because they're a service club, it'll be a token fee. Be the same, or what I think that'd be the same if Colcan Lions wanted to run a show in the hall here for a month, etc.
Mr. Chair, do we need to move that it's affected as a matter of emergency?
Well, depends, council. It depends, council Shield. You're right, but I try as the chair to let everybody have their say, and it is a matter that was brought up with me today, and I think it's appropriate that Councillor Wilton talks about it now, so that the Rotary Club of Holbrook can get a resolution pretty smartly.
Do we know the amount?
I actually told him $50. Now, whether I stuck my neck out or did all the wrong things, but the fact of the matter is, I regard it as a service club, and I'll ask the general manager to make a comment. But
unfortunately, it hadn't made the agenda because a resolution, it requires a resolution of council to waive fees. It's not within my delegations to waive fees. The fee for the hall hire would be approximately $7,000 to $8,000. Yeah, and so the intention was to bring the report to council because there is a budgetary implication, obviously, because that is revenue that council's waiving. However, if you wish to consider it tonight, it is a decision of council as to how much that you charge for particular facilities. It's done annually, but at any time during the year, it is a council resolution that can be changed or amended.
Can I talk to it now? Sorry. I belonged to the Rotary meeting about 2 weeks ago. It's costing Rotary $3,500 to get the show to Holbrook or to our shire. And I went to them I went and listened to their proposition. And they just can't afford to pay, $11,500 for something that hopefully will attract about 2,000 people. But I also suggested to them that they could really market it to the schools and to the other communities and run buses during school hours, like when the wish kids take the kids to school at Waller, for instance, or whatever, they could bring buses back to Holbrook, we could put on lunches, and I was trying to be very positive about it, and I think it's an amazing event. It's well acclaimed, and I think it would be an amazing opportunity for our shire. To host such a great thing. We don't do a lot of things like, art things, and I think that's, they just can't afford to pay $8,000 plus $3,500. They've actually said if that is the case, they would have to forego pretty much.
Councillor Wilton, if you were to move that the GM and I liaise with Holbrook Rotary to organise how this event will happen. Let's leave it open like that.
Can you just repeat that? I didn't get it.
The GM and myself liaise with Holbrook Rotary.
Right, thank you. Yes, look, I would move along those lines.
In order to make the thing happen.
In order to make it happen, contact with Paul, he's the man at the moment, I think. I think the person who first approached the general manager has handed over, and I think Rick's the one who really needs to deal with it.
Can I just ask if anyone knows whether they've been in touch with Murray Arms at all? And the CAS, I don't know whether it classifies under that, but the CAS events or grant money is available again at the moment, so maybe that could be an avenue that could be looked at as well.
I did suggest that they look into some grants, but I think time is of the essence. If they don't let them know in the next 2 weeks, which is why they have to write to councils, then they have to scrap it.
Still mightn't hurt to have a chat with Maria and see if there's anything at all like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll certainly check that out, councillor Shield. Do we have a second for your motion, councillor Will?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Parker. Further discussion? Not all in favour? Those against? They're carried. It's against all procedure, this thing which you're doing, but what's procedure about? Go away.
I have another item,
Yeah.
matter of urgency, and you might want to put this one properly. It's to do with the structure of council and the advertising of a vacancy on the staff in the media. And at the moment, the way it's been handled, it's in breach of the Local Government Act, and I want to be able to speak to it, please. That's what I'm asking.
Do you realise, councillor Wilton, you're talking about an operation matter? And it's not on councillor's agenda, but I'm just telling you that. You can talk.
Well, do you want to put it, or do you, can I proceed?
You can proceed, but it's a fine line. Council's job as councillors, we're in finance and policy. The rest of the outfit is operational.
This is not actually operational, Mr. Mayor. Under the section 332 of the Local Government Act, it says that the governing body of a council must determine the staff positions within the organisation, and the structure of the legal so-called senior staff has to be dealt with by the governing body of the council, and the governing body has to determine the structure, and then it's up to the general manager to put it into place. It happens to be that the senior staff position and the salary that's going to attract has fallen over the line of the sort salaries, and it's gone higher than what it should be, where it can be dealt with by the general manager. This is actually a senior staff position, and it needs to be handled by the governing body of the council. And then once it's handled and sorted out, I mean, I've got it written here, and it says a council must, after consulting with the general manager, determine the following: the senior staff positions within the organisation structure of the council, and the roles and reporting lines for other senior staff of holders of senior staff positions, and the resources to be allocated towards the employment of the staff. And then it goes on, the general manager must, after consulting the council, determine the position of senior, and this position is a senior position within the organisation structure of the council. The positions within the organisation structure of the council are to be determined so as to give effect to the priorities set out in the strategic plans. Don't have a problem with that, and delivery program. But a council may not determine a position to be a senior staff position unless the responsibilities, skills, and accountabilities of the position are generally equivalent to those applicable to the executive band. Well, we know that bit, but it is because it's going to become a senior staff position that's the issue, that it needs to be determined by this governing body that position will be a senior staff position. If the salary were up to say 200,000, it's different because it's not a senior staff position. But it's because it's fallen over into that higher level that it is actually a senior staff position.
Just ask a question. That ad is already out there, is it? Is that what you're saying? Okay, and the amount is quoted,
Yes,
the salary.
and it's in excess of the limit, and that puts it into that position of being a senior staff position.
Through you, the Director David Smith, when we, at the beginning of, when we were elected back at the beginning of this council term, didn't we sign off on a structure?
Yes,
And that's the structure we stay with.
yeah, the directors are,
Your microphones, please.
the directors have never been classified as senior staff in the under the Local Government Act. Because our remuneration has been under the limit and we're not on a contract.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I believe that in this particular situation, it's possibly not appropriate to have this conversation here. I've been unaware of the concerns. I'm happy to take it on notice. There is no intention to change it from the structure that it currently is at the moment. And there may have simply been something in the way we're packaging the advert, because it's not the advertised is not just about as a total remuneration, not just about a salary. So I would respectfully request that council allow me to investigate this further. We're simply advertising a role. We haven't appointed anyone. And if you have any further concerns, it would be really nice to know about it prior to the council meeting. Thank you.
And it is all being recorded, so that's possibly not so good either.
Oh, well, the question's been asked and the GM will deliver a report on it, let us know, sort of thing.
Look, I'm not talking about a person. I'm talking about a position that needs to be clarified. If I were to be talking about a person, I'd request that we go into closed committee, but we're not. And I just think we need to, it needs to be handled because we are in breach of what the Local Government Act says under section 332.
In the last 2 years, the staff have had quite serious pay rises, which in a lot of cases, a lot of councils have brought senior staff almost to the director's level. In some councils, directors are on a contract and the staff underneath them are rubbing shoulders with their wage sort of thing. So, but anyway, we'll have a report for the next meeting so that which we'll deal with in committee.
You want a motion to that point, certainly.
You can, yes.
Yes, I would like to move that the GM will report that next meeting we're done that.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Second, Councillor Wilton.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Parker.
Can we just go back to that last recommendation or resolution? Can we actually have a resolution that you've agreed to a certain amount? Sorry, can we do that or not?
I'd prefer if I just had the opportunity to provide a report to council first before we get the resolution to that effect.
Oh, sorry, the previous.
No, the
Oh,
one with,
sorry.
with Holbrook.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, the previous, I mean, you've had a conversation with Mr. Moore. So could you, are you able to go back to him and then let us know?
Yes.
Is that okay? Just so that we can then. Thank you.
They won't have any headaches about it.
Thank
It'll be resolved. Yeah,
Thank
yeah. All right, I'll put that last motion. All in favour? Those against, declare it carried. Would somebody move now that we note the rest of the B items? Councillor Parker, second. Councillor Chill, all in favour? Thank you. That's the end of tonight's meeting.